All right, good morning, friends. This is Maridi, and I'm going to go ahead and re-record this workshop on BigWigs and how to set up your customized BigWigs profile. The reasoning for that being that our VOD got lost, so I'm just going to go over all of the same stuff here and use this as the VOD if anyone wants to go back and look at different features again. So, let's get started. Probably go through it a little faster than in the live workshop, just because there's no one here to talk to me. So here we go. First up, obviously talking about BigWigs, this is a boss mod, and it's going to be one of two main options. The other option being DBM. I think that DBM is generally a pretty good option for newer players. It does a lot of the same things, and it's a little bit more obnoxious in terms of telling you what you have to do if you don't know what's going on, if you're a newer player. BigWigs is a little bit less clear-cut. It's not going to tell you exactly how to handle certain mechanics in the same way that DBM does, but it is a lot more customizable, and so that's the one we're going to talk about today is BigWigs. Excuse me. We'll start with just talking about how you can change how BigWigs looks. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead, I'm in my BigWigs options here. I'm going to click the Show Moving Anchors option. That's going to put all of these different things up on my screen that I can then move around. I'll come get a little bit of a better background for you here. So there are four main parts that we're going to look at here. I guess five. First is going to be messages. So we have emphasized messages. These ones are going to be bigger. I have mine placed right across the center of my screen so that it's super easy to see. Second, you have messages. So these are the non-emphasized ones. I have them up here because I don't look at them as much, but again, you can see your BigWigs, put them wherever you like. Second two things are going to be emphasized bars and bars. So these are going to be your regular timers. That's where we'll see the timers go down. Emphasized bars is going to be determined not by the ability, but instead by how long until it's going to happen. So if I create some test bars here, you'll see that I have these bars, and then once it hits 11 seconds, it's going to move from my bars portion into my emphasized bars portion. So as they go along, then when the timer comes up, that's when I get the message or the emphasized message. Final thing here is the text countdown. So this is going to be anything such as a poll timer that you have a countdown on. I again like having mine just about right over my character center of my screen. These two boxes are going to be a little bit more niche cases. A lot of times they'll only come up when you specifically ask them to. So with proximity, this is going to be a range check. So you can /range 5, say, and it'll bring up 5 yards, how many people and who are in your 5-yard proximity. Generally, at this point, most people are going to use a weak aura rather than this box to help with range checking, so that's why I have it just over to the side. The info box, again, we're generally going to be using weak auras nowadays as opposed to using this info box, just because weak auras will generally be more clear. So we can pretty much ignore those two for now. Once we have these different pieces placed where we want them to, we can customize their appearance. So in bars, I can customize my font, the spacing between each bars, the texture of the bar. I can choose where I want to align my text, which is going to be the name of the ability, my timer, and the icon. That's all in general. I also have different options for bars versus emphasized bars. So both of these sets of options will be very similar. First option is to toggle growing upwards or downwards. The default will be to grow down, so I have my anchor here. The bars are going to grow down this way. The other option, which I have checked for my emphasized bars, is that it's going to grow up. So from here, as I get more, they'll grow up as opposed to growing down over my party frame. Second options you have is the font size. So you can change font size on each of these bars, make your text a little bit bigger. You can also change the exact positioning, width, and height here. In emphasized bars, you also have the option to change when you want them to be emphasized. So like I said, for me, I have that at 11 seconds, but I also have my visible bar limit set to 5. So if there's more than 5 abilities that are going to happen in the next 11 seconds, only the next 5 will show for me there. The rest will stay in bars until there's space. Similarly here, you have position, height, width, all of that good stuff. Moving on to our messages. Similar here, you can pick the font, the style, the size. You can pick if it's aligned left, right, or center. And then you can choose how long it'll be displayed for and how long it'll take to fade out. Similar option here, do you want them growing upwards or downwards? You can talk about using class colors if it has a name in it, and also icons. Similarly, for emphasized messages, we can choose the font size. I have it to show all in uppercase. That does not have to be the case. And then we can change the exact positioning here. So, for example, I'm going to move my emphasized messages back to the center and pick some round numbers here. Just because it makes me happy. Moving on into colors, we have a lot of different colors here. Right now they're labeled as the color that it shows as. If we scroll over, we can see what the category is. So for this one, general encounter warnings will show in red. Warnings for good things that happen, such as a debuff being removed, will show in green. Warnings for tank-specific abilities will be shown in purple. More general encounter warnings in yellow. Warnings for things that happen to you directly in blue. And then warnings for encounter status change, such as stages, in this cyan color. So another blue. So all of these are totally customizable. So if you, say, are a tank and you want your tank notifications to show in something more obnoxious than this purple, you can change that to, you know, hot pink, whatever you want it to be. Second piece here is bars. So setting your default bar colors. I think the default that you get with BigWigs is that your bars are this blue color and your emphasized bars are a red color. My suggestion to you guys, if you want to have color-coded bars, is to pick the same color here so that it doesn't change between your two sets of bars, and then you can then set your colors based on abilities. Oh, I've been invited to a guild. No, thank you. You can set colors based on abilities rather than based on if they're within the next 10 seconds. Finally, we have sounds. I don't know why I said finally, there's a lot more to go. So with this, you have default sounds, which I still have all of the defaults because I have built a Pavlovian reaction before I knew that you could change them. But if you had a sound pack or anything, I have several here, you can change these to be more descriptive, such as if you want you need to move out of a spell from under you, you can pick one of these custom sounds that actually says move. Similarly, you can change all of the alarm, alert, info, long, warning, which sound is associated with which ability, we'll talk about in a little bit when we go into the actual abilities. We have our countdown, so you can see that this is mine in the middle of my screen. I can choose when it starts the countdown. I like 5 seconds. You can choose what voice we're counting down in, what language, and then for the text we can set, again, the font, the style, the size, the color. So I could make this, I don't know why I have an obsession with hot pink, but it's true. There's a lot of other individual things in here that are less relevant for in-raid reminders, but things like your pull timer sounds, if you want it to play a sound when you kill a boss, if you want it to play a sound when you wipe. This one is actually pretty useful. You can have BigWigs auto whisper your friends or random people who whisper you if you're in a boss encounter, so that they know what's happening and your friend doesn't go, oh my god, they're ignoring me, if you have dramatic friends. Other things, you can use the blocks, so things like auto-skipping cutscenes, blocking a bunch of other pop-ups while you're in raids so you don't get distracted, and then just some other various options there, followed by, at the end, profiles. You can have different profiles if you want different things on, say, a different role or anything like that. You can customize your profile. For now, there is not, as far as I know, a way to share profiles from one account to another, but hopefully that will be a feature that's coming in an update soonish. So, that's all of our general options. We'll go now into individual bosses. I know I kind of rushed through that, so please bear with me. Rewind, slow it down, whatever you need to. We'll go into individual boss abilities now and talk about how to customize some of this. So, let's talk about Sarkareth, since he has a lot of different kinds of abilities here. For this, one of the first things that you want to do is identify the abilities that are really important. So what I would start with is picking abilities that I want to emphasize for myself. So, for example, on Sarkareth, number one thing that comes to mind is going to be when I am targeted with abilities. So when I'm targeted with Mass Disintegrate. So for this one, in stage 1, I'm going to go into my Mass Disintegrate. Clicking these 2 arrows over here is going to give me the options. I've checked this option here where if this is emphasizing for me only, which means that if I am targeted with the ability, it'll give me that huge, big, emphasized message. If someone else is targeted, it will not give me that big message. So only when it's on me. Second thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to color code my bars. So for this one, I figured it's Mass Disintegrate, it's a blue arrow, I'm going to make the bar blue. So I picked this blue color, and I want to make sure that it's the same on my bars and my emphasized bars for that consistency. Next thing that I want to know for phase 1 is going to be the breath, because as a melee DPS, I have to worry about baiting that in the right place on Mythic, so I'm going to go in here. I don't really need to emphasize it or put a countdown, because I have a weak aura that does a countdown for me, but I could add a countdown for that. I am, however, going to color code these bars. It's breath, fire, red, so I'm going to pick this red color, put it for the normal and emphasized. If I wanted to alter the sounds, here's how I would do it. So I could go into this sound here. I actually have a sound bite that says breath, breathe. I could choose that one to use instead of this default alert sound. I'm not going to do that, but it is an option. Last thing in P1 that's important is this glittering surge. So for me, I have all of my big raid damage events coded in hot pink. So making sure that I know this is a big raid damage event, I'm going to put both my bars as hot pink just for that consistency. In P2, similarly, I want Infinite Duress. This is the ability that's on you that knocks other people away, so I'm going to have that checked for emphasize me only. And I'm going to color code the bar again in a blue color because that's what makes sense to me. When we go out here, I will point out, if you ever are curious, if you see this blue exclamation point next to the ability, you can see that those are all of the ones that I have checked for emphasize on me. So there's different little icons here that will tell you what is happening in terms of notifications. So the emphasize on me is this exclamation point. BigWigs will put information in the /say, so you can see that it's happening here on Embrace of Nothingness, here again on Hurtling Barrage. there's also this countdown. Say countdown is going to be, excuse me, when your character puts in /say the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, versus this little timer is going to indicate that there's an audible countdown for you. I think that mostly covers it, all of the different things you can do here. You will, like I said, as of now, there is not a option to share profiles. Hopefully someday soon there will be. So for now, you would have to go into each boss individually and then pick out the abilities that you want color-coded bars for, and then color-code those bars manually. Hopefully soon, like I said, we'll get a profile setting that we can just share from account to account. I think that mostly covers it for this, so we'll move on to weak auras that we can trigger off of BigWigs timers, which is going to be another very useful thing here. To finish it up, I gotta wait for my weak auras to load. There are many. Alright, so here's some of the ones that I'm looking at. The first one that I want to show you how to do is to structure a weak aura based off of a BigWigs timer. So for this one, I'm going to use the breath from Sarkareth. So I basically just made a progress bar weak aura here. I picked all of my aesthetics, so the color, the texture, the size, where it is on my screen. Set all of that up. I put in my text here because it is breath. What I want to do with this weak aura is tell me when the second breath is going to happen, because on Mythic, that's the one that as a melee, I have to make sure I'm aiming towards the ranged group so that they can clear. So when that breath is coming up, I want the reminder to bait at ranged. Then with a timer, I used %P there for a timer. That's going to be the shorthand. When you scroll over this text box, you'll see all of these different text options you can do to show different things like stacks, icon, name, progress, that kind of stuff. Once I have all of that set up, I need to actually trigger it off of something. In this case, I'm going to use 2 triggers, and I want both of them to be required for activation, so all triggers. If I pick any triggers, that's going to do either one of them, but I want it only to happen when both are happening at the same time. So number 1 is my stage. I only want it to happen in stage 1, so first phase, because after I want this specifically for one singular ability, which is the second breath in stage 1. So we're going to pick stage 1. How we do that, we're going to pick a trigger type, in this case other add-ons. We're going to use BigWigs stage, and when stage equals 1. So now this weak aura is only going to get triggered in stage 1. From there, we have to pick the actual ability to base the timer on. So again, we're going to use other add-ons. In this case, we're going to use a BigWigs timer. For this, how we're going to decide which timer it uses is what the message says. So if I go back to my BigWigs options and I go into Sarkareth, I can see that down here, Searing Breath, in this parentheses in blue, breath, that's going to be the message that shows up. So that's what I'm going to use as my, I guess, anchor point for this weak aura, is when the message contains breath. And I'm going to say when the remaining time is less than or equal to 5 seconds, so this timer will always be in seconds, that's when it's going to show, is when a breath is coming up in less than 5 seconds. For count, this is going to be where I specify which breath, so it's the second one, so I'm going to put 2. So now when the second breath has less than 5 seconds until it goes off, I'm going to get this timer progress bar, and it's going to remind me to bait it ranged in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can do that with any ability to create a timer there. All you need to do is know what say the messages to anchor your timer off of, and then just add in whatever other qualifications you want. This is another one that's set up in the same way. In this case, what this WeakAura is telling me to do is get to circle. Doesn't mean a lot, but how my guild did Sarkareth, we put a circle marker on someone, and that's how we met and stacked to go down for the final time on the Mythic Sarkareth fight, where we had to all go into the same puddle to go downstairs and get that haste buff. So for this one, when you go down, it's going to be right after a Dark Ascension cast. So again, first I'm going to make sure that this is only going to happen in stage 3, because that's where I want it to be. And then I'm going to use that Dark Ascension cast to structure my WeakAura off of. So if the message contains Ascension, this one I put for less than 6 seconds, and it's the third one that's going to pop up and remind me to get to circle, stack on that person, and then from there to go down with the rest of my raid. Sorry, completely lost my train of thought there. Final one that I'm going to look at here is the Rashok tank cast, mostly because this one is a little bit different in terms of how I set it up. This one is really big because I've tanked Rashok, and sometimes I have missed the taunt. Don't judge. So for this one, I made a WeakAura that's going to help me deal with that. It's going to be set up, like I said, a little different. First, going through all of the aesthetics, making those look how I want them to. Once that is all set up, I've entered some text. So you can see here a little bit of a different text. It says %1 dest name, %2 dest name, and then that progress timer. %1 dest name and %2 dest name, the percent is just saying that it's going to plug in something. The 1 and 2 is referring to which trigger the WeakAura is going to look at. So %1 dest name is looking at the dest name of trigger 1, %2 is looking at the destination name of trigger 2. And then dest name is just the, like I've been saying, the destination name. It's this is tracking a cast, so it's who the cast is on. In this case, it's going to be the tank that has aggro. From there, I'm going to come into my triggers. In this case, I want it to trigger on either, so we're going to go any triggers. And the two ones that I have in here are the two different tank casts of Rashok. So first is going to be Flaming Slash. I went and pulled that spell ID. I'm using a unit info trigger, which is going to be the cast from the unit boss. So this is a cast that the boss unit, in this case Rashok, is doing. Cast type cast does that. I probably don't actually even need to have that checked, but that's okay. NPC ID is just another redundant option here where I put in Rashok's NPC ID to make sure that this is only going to trigger on Rashok when he casts Flaming Strike, or Flaming Slash. Second trigger is set up the exact same way, but instead I'm going to use the Earthern Crush spell ID there. From here, the final thing I'm going to do is color code my bars. So if trigger 1, which is the Flaming Slash, is happening, this is going to be a red color. If 2, which is the Earthern Crust, is going to happen, it's going to be this brown color. So I can easily tell the difference between which ability is going off. And this is going to end up being a cast bar down here that says the target name, the time, and then color-coded red or brown, depending on which ability. It's going to make it really easy for me to tell which when to taunt there. That one is not necessarily set off of a BigWigs timer, but I wanted to give you guys that example as well of something that's set up on a boss cast that can be helpful. So hopefully I covered everything again in this. if you have questions, feel free to join the Discord and ask there. We do have a cleaning up your UI channel that you can ask in, and I will do my best to respond to you in a timely manner. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day and that this resource is useful for you. Toodaloo!